This would be a disaster for Ukraine, and it would be terrible for all the rest of us to see Russia be um, rewarded for any of its aggressive behavior. And Crimea, of course, which is the thing that gets batted around as possible. Come on, let them have Crimea so we can stop this. That's a guarantee that Ukraine will never rebuild its economy, and that it's the launching pad for Russia to resume things in 2 or 3 years when they're ready. So that's out there in the near term. But to the point of your question about American domestic politics, the burden is on my president to explain why this matters. And I think, actually, what I saw at the Munich Security Conference back in February, where the largest U.S. congressional delegation ever to attend the Munich Security Conference was there, including a large number of Republicans, led by the Republican Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell. And Mr. McConnell stood up at an event and said, I am here, along with almost all of the Senate Republican leadership and many leaders from the House, to say that we are here to support Ukraine, to support Europe, to support NATO. And of course, and then he went on Fox TV and said the same thing that night and said, look, and what he's trying to do is separate the core of the leadership of the Republican Party from the extremist voices that are out there that are making ridiculous comments like, this is a regional border dispute or something like that. So that gives me confidence. And the fact that the Congress has continued to support Ukraine in a very strong bipartisan way. I mean, all of this aid would not be happening if it was just Democrats pushing for it. So I've seen enough commentary and evidence of strong Republican support for this that I am not so worried that next year, by the end of 2024, when there's another election, that this will dry up. But again, the burden is on the current administration to explain why this is in America's interest. Exactly what Senator McConnell said. This is in America's interest, that Europe is stable, secure, and prosperous because our prosperity is tied to it. That the so-called international rules-based order, which means sovereignty of borders, every Republican cares about sovereignty of borders, free trade, freedom of navigation, which is part of trade, and America depends on trade. And in all these other aspects of things, that's our interest. And then, of course, the fact that the Chinese are watching to see, can we get this done? Can we stick together? And so the Republicans say we need to be focused on the Chinese. This is about China. This is all about the strategic outcome that we want. If the president says we want Ukraine to win, we want them to win, then all of these excuses about how long it'll take to train, or this tank burns too much fuel, or there's so many excuses have been deployed to explain why we're not doing exactly what you just described, because we haven't said we want to win. The administration, despite the amazing job they've done on so much of this, still continues to self-deter because of, I think, an exaggerated concern about Russia somehow is going to pull out some sort of way to escalate that we haven't anticipated, or that they would actually use a nuclear weapon of some sort. And I think that the administration has got to get over that. They're not going to use a nuclear weapon. But even if they did use a tactical nuclear weapon, the administration would have to follow through on what they said, catastrophic consequences. And as I said earlier, we used to train to operate in an environment where the Soviets used lots of tactical nuclear weapons. This is not, Dr. Strangelove or Hiroshima type nuclear weapons. I'm not downplaying the significance of it. I'm saying that everybody else that has a nuke or thinks they might want to have a nuke, they're waiting to see, can the U.S. be so easily deterred by Russia threatening to use a nuclear weapon? If that's the case, then there will be a increased emphasis by everybody to get their own nuclear weapons, because clearly that's the thing. But if the U.S., with support of allies, is able to bat that aside, then that will take a lot of the steam out of Iran, North Korea, and other ne'er-do-wells who think that they need to have a nuclear weapon. And I think that's what it's going to take. If you believe that the outcome should be Ukrainian victory, establishing sovereignty over all of its territory, then that quickly takes you to the recognition or the realization that Crimea is the decisive terrain. You could kill every Russian soldier within 150 miles of Bakhmut, and that would not change the strategic outcome.